On this episode of IT Unplugged, we sit down with Scott. Scott, what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about digital clutter. What is it and how do you get rid of it?
At M2 Technology, we're on a mission to make IT accessible to everyone. Join us on our journey to demystify the ever-evolving world of business technology. Are you ready to get unplugged?
Welcome back to IT Unplugged. I'm Brandon.
I'm Scott.
Scott, you're one of our first not internal M2 employees. That's a repeat guest, so welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I feel part of the family.
Well, you like are part of the family by now, you know. If you're here twice, you're invited to every single holiday from this point on. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So, well, last time when you were here, we talked a lot about printing solutions. And today we're going to kind of talk a little bit more about workflow and business processes and kind of automation. So, I'm probably the first one that's going to go like, okay, what the heck does that actually mean? So can you break down some of those, words that we just kind of gave out, that what is workflow, process, automation, all that good stuff?
Yeah, no, and you are not the first person that I've talked with that is like, what does this all mean? So we've actually worked pretty hard at James Imaging to kind of help our clients understand this. So we have two distinct parts of our company. We have our first, which is Print Smart. And, most people understand making marks on paper is our Print Smart area. What we are calling the other side of our business is Work Smart. And what we're saying is we understand that printing is going down and we could either stick our heads in the sand and pretend like it wasn't. But what we're doing is we're actively helping our customers with digital transformations. So when it comes to those documents that used to be printed, transactional, might be information in files, things like that, we are now helping them digitally transform those files. So whether they're sending or receiving that information and putting it in a useful, meaningful way into their systems.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, that seems very beneficial because we sit down with places and they're like, we want to be paperless, or something like this. So you can kind of hear it, and it was more companies were, or maybe they still are, was striving to get there, but at the same time they didn't know how to or what that looked like. So, I guess kind of paint me a picture. What does it look like essentially when a business is doing everything manually? What kind of chaos does that create?
Yeah, and it's so funny when you say that, when you're kind of saying, hey, we're going to go paperless. Over the years, I've had a fair amount of clients say to me, Scott, I got bad news. We're going paperless. And I'm like, and I think they almost fall over and I say, oh, okay, that's great. Well, we can help you with that. So it is kind of a funny moment in working with our clients. But, some of the things that we see. So what's interesting is what we do is we do assessments for organizations. What we're really trying to do is come in and learn their business. And we're really trying to learn the document side, the data, the information side of their business. And so what we'll do is we'll start interviewing different users. And we have questions like, where are the pain points in your processes? Like, where do you feel bottlenecks going on? Sometimes we'll do a walk around. And those are always the most fascinating moments because you see different things in the walk around. So I don't know if I should say this, but of course I should because that's usually the best thing, when people say, oh, I shouldn't say this. But every company tells a story. And when I do a walkthrough and assessment, I guarantee you 90% of the time, the story has already been told in 30 minutes or less. It's usually pretty evident. Then what we do is we kind of see those clues. And as we continue the assessment process, as we continue walkthroughs, we're just gaining more clues, more data to kind of back up what the story is being told.
Yeah.
So examples I've seen of it, there was one company that we were in a unlocked, unsecure room, and it had just boxes upon boxes of documents. And I said to the person, well, is this room always unlocked? Yeah. I said, is there any critical information in here that people shouldn't see? And they're like, no, I think it's all okay. And I said, can I just reach in a box and grab something? And they're like, sure. So I reach in a box and out I pull. And it's a transaction receipt, and it has someone's credit card number. It has their address, their name, signatures. And I said, well, this is a PIC compliance issue because I just reached in and unlocked a room. So it's things like that we see. We see a lot of data just sitting around, unstructured, raw form. This is, of course, when it's in hard form.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you talk about the information gathering process, and when you come into a place and you get some buy-in of, hey, we have these things that maybe need to be optimized, I feel like it's not always the people that are, sitting in the C-suite or the VP level that are feeling a lot of this pain. So do you get kind of below the line and the people that are doing the everyday work? Because I feel like that's where you find a lot of the story of where that pain actually is.
Yeah, that's exactly it. In fact, so often what happens, and in fact, we're working with a company in the area, multi-billion-dollar company, and this idea of transforming one of their processes came from a factory level position, and it bubbled up to the corporate headquarters. And so often they're feeling the challenges. They're seeing how they're getting this information in. They see there could be a better way of doing it. They see where technology is going, and they usually come up. So a lot of times it'll flow up. Sometimes it flows down.
Okay.
But a lot of times it is people who are technology savvy or just realize there has to be a better way going up.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, working in the IT field, I see those rooms with all those boxes all the time. And I walk in and I go, oh, should probably call James to kind of figure this stuff out. But, and there's dates that are back there that, 2017. And do you need this stuff still? And sometimes it is. It's like retention. Yeah. We need it for this long or this period of time. And you ask, and they're like, yeah, we have it in digital, and we have it in paper, and we have it here. And then other times it's just personal preference. It seems like where it's, we have an owner, and he would prefer to not get rid of anything ever. So is there, you obviously mentioned one with PCI, but is there like some cases where you would continue to do something like that, or is it mostly all the time better to optimize and automate?
Now, I am not a legal professional, so, but here's what we really say. Is number one, when you have that information laying around it's beyond the expiration date or the retention date, and now you may have potential issues lurking in your business. So we always recommend with our clients, there's a retention date that's required by law. We're of course going to use those to the full extent. Yeah. But having that excess information available and auditable or discoverable is a potential liability. So what you should do is use the retention rates. And what's really good is in a lot of content management solutions, there'll be a way to say, set an expiration date when you put in a document or a series of documents or a data stream to say, hey, these should be purged from the system 7 years from now. Yeah. And do that. So it really helps clients manage their data.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of talked about, we're taking away the manual process, and we talked about automating. Sometimes you think of automating and people are like, oh yeah, robots and this. Like, what are we talking about when it comes to automating, when it comes to workflow and business process automation?
Yeah, you bet. And I'm not a young guy anymore, and so there are times I need to really impress my wife or my kids. And so, a year or two ago, the big noise in our industry was RPA, and we were going to deploy bots. And I thought I sounded really cool. Hey, I'd say to my wife, Nene, hey, Nene, today we talked about deploying bots, and I thought that was kind of impressive. But whether it's bots or AI, what we're doing is we're really trying to automate how people deal with information. And the thing I always like saying is, let's get fingers off the keyboards, because it's so hard to find people that they want to key in that information. In fact, that's one of the biggest frustrations is, how do we get that information into the systems in a meaningful way? So, if an invoice is, whether it's come in via email, it's come in via scan, a PDF, whatever, having the bots do the work of looking at that data, having machine learned that invoice, and now all of a sudden now your AP people become fact checkers, quality checkers, versus ingesting with fingers on keyboards.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. We trust those AP people a lot to type all those things in. Is there a level of trust or lack of trust that people have to get over for the automation aspect, that something's coming in and the system's just going to take care of it?
You bet there is, right? Yeah. And that's why we really stress, you still need that quality check. So often what we're able to do is we're actually able, again, with machine learning. So what we'll do is a real common entry point for us is accounts payable.
Yeah.
And because it goes across so many gamuts in a company. So, you think of something as simple as an electric bill. And it has the same look, it has the same data points. And so, okay, we ingest this in. We let the machine learning go on, the AI, they're going to pick the different data points that they think we want, that we've asked for. And then first time, just double check.
Yeah.
Did it do it? And what's really cool, a lot of softwares, they'll have like a red, yellow, green. And, green, I am really confident I nailed this. Yellow, red, we have no idea. And to watch it go through that, and you help it learn the document. And then I do think after a couple of times you've quality checked it, it's time to just let it go. If it keeps getting it, it's learned where that information is on the document. And even being able to do things like line item detail on a PO, it will double check the math.
Yeah.
It can do some amazing things. So if we're able to get rid of all those simple tasks, and now we make your people more value added in what they're doing, not just, again, keying in data or double checking data, but now we can actually have them start thinking strategically about the items, about how the cash is going out. It changes the conversation.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun for somebody that's been in a role for however long, that's so used to doing something a certain way, and then really leveraging that technology and being like, oh my gosh, my job has gotten, I don't want to say considerably easier, but potentially, and then different. You know what I mean? Like new challenges arise or different things happen.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned accounts payable is like an easy thing to kind of start at, or like, it's across the company in multiple different ways. What other areas do you usually see that maybe is a good entry point, or even, I don't want to call it out, but like maybe there's the breakdown there and it's hey, our things don't really flow. We don't have a process. What department is it in? Is it in contracts? Is it in invoices, accounts payable? What does it kind of look like?
Well, that's where we really, again, this assessment is really huge, because one of the questions we'll ask is help us understand bottlenecks. Where is information getting held up that you want to be able to move through? So often it's approvals. So, hey, we're waiting for Bob to send his approval. Oh, Bob's on vacation. Okay, then if Bob's on vacation, how do we automate so that, okay, Jill can now be the approver if Bob's out, or even if Bob's out unexpectedly, a family emergency, something like that. So there's a lot of things we can do to help clients kind of remove those bottlenecks.
Gotcha. So let's just kind of change course a little bit. I guess we kind of talked about it, but digital clutter, okay? And we see this a lot of times, even as an MSP, where we just walk in and they're like, show us your structure, your file structure, and where's all your information? Because sometimes we're doing like data backups. We're like, we just want to see all the stuff you got here, and what's relevant, and what do we need to back up, and what's on your workstations. And it is just stuff everywhere, all the time. So how does kind of Work Smart help with that?
Yeah, so it's so funny when, the analogy I like using is we've just replaced a very old filing system with a new filing system, but you still have to get it in the right place. Which, by the way, have you gone on the internet and just looked to see what people do with old filing cabinets?
No, what do they do with old filing cabinets?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see what the market for it is. By the way, if you own a lot of old filing cabinets, don't cash your check. They're not worth much. Biggest use I found for them is planters.
Really?
Yeah, which I have not actually seen deployed.
Like they pull out the thing and do a couple of them?
You could do that.
Okay.
You could lay them down, take out the drawers, make planters. Anyways, there's a plethora of options.
Seems like some Etsy stuff. You know what I mean? Etsy, the real fancy. That's
Yes.
something my wife would probably be doing.
Yeah. If you're looking for a craft show opportunity and have a large
File
trailer,
cabinets.
filing cabinet arts. But anyways, what we're really seeing is an issue where there are all these bits and pieces of information sitting out. It could be on someone's laptop, it could be in their email, their desktop, it could be on a shared drive. All this information that needs to go in a central place, and there's no really rhyme or reason on how some organizations are doing that. I was saying to Brandon earlier, one of the biggest issues that we're seeing is in the past when someone left an organization, they would leave all this tribal knowledge in kind of a manageable spot. A lot of times a person would come in, take over their desk, there'd be files, there'd be binders. Unless they were fired, then sometimes that stuff would magically disappear. You know?
Then they take the binders with them.
Or throw it out. You know who you are. But it is now becoming a real issue that when people come in, because there's not a nomenclature, and I love using that term too, the nomenclature. There's not a nomenclature on how we're storing this, how we're naming it, what is actually in the document. And so before someone could kind of page through, look through, scan through, now it's more of a intensive purposes. Number one, finding it, because it's not readily seeable.
Yeah.
And so that is something that companies are starting to struggle with, is I have all this digital clutter. How do I make it understandable? How do I make it seeable? Tribal knowledge going forward with the new employees versus it's a fresh scratch start.
Yeah. It's so important for new people coming in to be able to see that and be confident as well in how things are formatted, especially if you're in a role that needs to see how things were done in the past. It's totally a different ballgame when you're walking in with some things that have already been done for you, so you're not reinventing the wheel every time. So
I think big time. To kind of understand how did we get to this point, to understand the notes, the detail, all of that maybe structured a contract, maybe structured a program, maybe structured a response in a problem that you're trying to help your client with.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get anybody to fill out a sales process. You barely can get somebody to fill in CRM notes every time. So you think about an entire organization and having the thing that happened 5 years ago and
exactly.
be readily accessible.
Yeah.
So do you have an example of maybe a customer that I don't want to, not to say anything bad about a customer, but they came in and they had just a situation that was definitely had a lot of opportunity, let's say, and then what the outcome was after? You don't have to name them. Yeah,
well, it's funny. The one I initially think of, and I don't want to give too much detail, but there was one company or one organization I worked with that I couldn't, one thing, being someone who gets into a lot of different businesses, you see a lot of things, and sometimes you're just really amazed, like, wow, that was really spectacular. Like, they really know what they're doing. I just recently had that I was talking with Catherine Klaus from Titletown Tech. I was very impressed with something that they're working on with a client. But in the same breath, you see stuff and you're like, oh my goodness! Like I can't unsee what I just saw.
Sure.
I again won't name the company, but there was a company on the lakeshore, very big household name worldwide, and to see like their data closet, you just couldn't unsee it. But I think the biggest thing that we see transformational is companies that had start in a small spot And to see the transformation of their employees being able to, number one, be more effective, again, bringing up the level of the information. You start being able to get some of those data points and being able to, one company, they started using our product, and what they would do is they would get the raw materials. And once they were signed for, they would send the bill as the truck is driving away. They would get paid for the raw materials before the end product even left their factory. And you start talking about cash on hand and really making a difference in how business operates to increase their cash flows that way. That was huge.
Yeah.
Again, taking that conversation, elevating it is an amazing thing. And that's a company in the Appleton area that still uses that to this day.
Yeah. I would assume ROI is always a little bit different on some of this stuff, right? I mean, because you say, hey, if you implement this, you get this back. But in this case, it's, hey, your cash on hand is going to increase. And
Yes.
in another cases, your employees, it's your employee satisfaction. I mean, there could be an ROI based on making their job different or easier or different things like that. So, what, am I missing something there? Is there other things?
No. So, I will always remember the first time I was working on this with a large customer still to this day who's a client on the lakeshore, and one of my contacts lost their job due to workflow. And my contact could see my face because I was like, ooh, I wasn't picturing that. And part of it was the employee was an employee they wanted to get rid of anyways. And so whether it was the workflow solution that replaced the employee or not didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But what really is mattering now is still clients are struggling to get quality people. They're struggling to get quality people and to do repeatable things.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this is actually, so what we say to our clients is you can keep growing your business and you can keep your employees doing more value add. Number one, keeping and retaining the employees. Number two, making them more effective, increasing their value to the organization. And it gives them more flexibility where they need to hire the bodies. Do they want to hire them doing these simple tasks, or do you want them out on the factory floor actually producing widgets and being able to be more effective that way?
So this seems really beneficial for a lot of companies. I mean, I can't really think of a single company that I probably have ever worked at that wouldn't think this would be something that they should at least be looking at.
Yeah.
Is there a certain size or amount of, flow of the job, or that's a kind of a silly one, but is there companies that are too small to do this? Because it seems like the practices are good all over the place. So when should a company start maybe looking at this if they're hearing it and they're like, we only have 9 people, or is workflow automation and business process automation just something for really large companies?
No, and in fact, it's actually probably a little more inverse what you think. Sometimes the really large companies don't have it, and really what it becomes the inertia it takes to change the process throughout every location. So what we always say to clients is you land and expand. You get wins under your belt. Again, one of my old clients, they just said it really effectively. If you are like, hey, we're going live with document management, and it's the whole company, that project is never getting off the ground.
Sure.
If you say, hey, we're going to start small, and every time we get audited about tax, sales tax with different states, and we do our first project with that, and we know every month we're going to save 4 hours in having our auditors being able to just view the information, and we're getting dinged less each time, that's a win. You take that win, then you go to AP. You take that win, then you go to HR. So you can just see how it keeps stacking on the locations inside an organization.
Yeah.
But to answer your original question, is there accounts that are too small? No. It's maybe sometimes a little simpler with a smaller organization because, again, you don't have the multiple people. Maybe it doesn't have to be as elegant as some of our solution sets. So, yeah, I mean, even a well-run 2-3 person office can really be helped by this. They might be able to do a lot of it through like a QuickBooks or something like that.
Yeah.
But they may not necessarily need the horsepower that we're going to bring to it, but the same principles apply.
Yeah. I feel like human nature, though we've always done it this way, would be something that probably comes up often.
Yes.
So do you have any, you've been doing this for a while,
Yeah.
So do you have any tricks or what's your go-to to get somebody maybe off of that path of, we've always done it this way and real resistant to change?
Yeah. Part of it's challenge. I'll never forget. I'm actually thinking of a very specific person and a very specific organization about 15 years ago when this was really the whole idea of workflow and getting fingers off keyboards was really just mind-blowing. And there was a woman in an organization, and it was about a $200 million organization, and this person was older. Now, a person can be older and they can be technology forward, they can be, young, hip. This person was none of those. They just kind of came across older than they were. They dressed older than they were. Very sweet woman. But she was probably 64 acting 94. It just floored me. And anyways, we went through the entire integration, and they were at the time using AS400, and we were integrating with this. And after about 2 months, I'm like, I'm going to ask her. And her reaction was just like, I love it.
Yeah.
And it was really a watershed moment for me because I thought, if this person can change their ways, anyone can change their ways. So the biggest thing that I really learned, and it's kind of counterintuitive from one of my stories earlier, is really to get an organization's commitment. What is the purpose of this? And that instance where that employee lost their job, I have not had that instance ever since then where people have lost their positions.
Yeah.
And so that is probably the first point of resistance, is not in a negative way. Like, again, you say we're all human. Like, how will this affect me? Am I going to lose my job? Will I be able to feed my family? Once we take that off the table, and you do kind of have to acknowledge that with the folks, to say we're just trying to get better, smarter, faster.
Yeah.
That really opens the floodgates. And I think now, especially as things are becoming more technological, everyone's hearing AI. They know they have to roll with the times and make sure that they're staying up to date and understand it's important organizationally that happens as well.
Yeah. So let's say a company is hearing this and they're going, okay, we could use some of this work smart. What's the next step? What should they do?
Yeah. So what I always say to folks is we just want to have a conversation. So if they're intrigued to hear about this, they think, oh, I have an issue. Let's just have a conversation. And what we'll do is we'll kind of hear the business problem they have. We'll ask some questions. We'll kind of see if there's some synergies for further conversations. Sometimes we'll point to an organization and they'll say, well, we already have these pieces and these pieces. Well, have you thought about using that a different, it's not always like, hey, we're gonna move stuff. Sometimes we'll help them understand current technology they have and maybe how to use it better.
Yeah.
But again, it's just a conversation. I've been doing this 34 years. Oh, that just scares me to say out loud. 34 years. Doing the right thing, asking the questions, developing a long-term relationship, understanding sometimes you don't always have the right piece, and then helping them understand, oh, you should call them for the right piece.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, well, awesome. I really appreciate, like always, just learning more, and especially about what's happening with James Imaging and how you guys are helping local businesses. So,
Great. Thanks for the opportunity.
yeah, absolutely. And thank you for listening to IT Unplugged. Make sure you tune in for everything IT, cybersecurity, entrepreneurship related, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.